How's your morning going, brother?
Yeah, I'm just getting up. I've been up for like 30
Right and
minutes
fresh.
just for this. Yeah, pretty much.
Yep. Another wonderful Saturday morning. Good time to have another good disruptive conversation. What I wanted us to talk about today is something that a lot of people struggle with, us included. We have our issues with it too. Nobody's perfect. That's why we help people because we know we're not perfect ourselves. We have more answers than some. So, what I want us to talk about is everything around triggers, what could cause them, what's involved in being triggered, how you can handle it, and maybe we can share personal experiences on that, you know, all in the effort to help some more people gain an understanding of it and maybe get some steps to move forward and work through it. So, you want to lead? You want to start it off?
Sure, I can start it off. So I don't deal with them as much anymore because I'll start off with this. Because I talk about, a lot of things with people in regards to stress and sugar and stuff like that. So for me, when it comes to a lot, I basically have what I call a 7 minute rule. So I would listen to stuff over the course of time in regards to like recovery time when you are dealing with stress or triggers and stuff. And so it ends up becoming a distraction if you don't manage it properly. It's like having a high intense emotion and it kind of distracts you from what you're doing, your life, and people and interactions and things like that. So I implemented a 7 minute rule where I have 7 minutes to feel what I need to feel, speak on it, more so internally. It's not because most things I deal with are not involving other people. And then I determine if it's like something I need to fix right now or if it's something I can stay for later, but feel what I need to feel right now in order to process it throughout the day. But if it's something I need to handle right then and there, then I handle it. But I give myself that 7 minutes so it doesn't interrupt and affect my day. And that's a big important thing in regards to it. But there are things in regards to just life or things that get triggered. Obviously, it also in terms of emotion and trauma or anything like that. And a lot of people I've learned do not understand that aspect of it. Because sometimes when a lot of things come down to it, it comes down to something from the past, whether it's from a past relationship, childhood, parents, whatever it is, or some kind of thing that happened. Like I know people are obviously got through abuse, like accidents, like car accidents or anything like that. So if there's a certain type of scenario or words that are used that come up, that automatically click and you get that instant thing that you dealt with, you might not stress over that thing anymore, but you might drink with the feeling that came from that thing at that time. And so that's what ended up causing you that. It's kind of like that perceived reality versus actual reality, the current threat versus actual threat.
Oh, yeah.
You can think and feel the same thing in each given situation. When one isn't happening, you just think and feel like it's happening. So you react in that way.
Before we even go deeper, first thing you got to understand is that a trigger is your response to an experience or a situation that reminds you of something of the past. And when these triggers happen or you're triggered, you know, you basically go right back to the emotional state you were when that original event occurred. So it doesn't matter if it happened 5 years ago, 10 years ago, when you get triggered, you are right back in that same exact emotional place again. And it could be something small, completely unrelated, but it just feels the same and it just hits something in your brain and you're right back in that experience. So one of the things that you got to understand about it is that it's extremely hard to control if you don't know that's what's happening. You don't know what triggers you and you don't know what's involved in that. And it happens. You're just thinking, maybe I lost my temper. Maybe I'm having a panic attack or all these other different symptoms of the bigger issue, which is you have this trigger there that's regularly occurring in your life and wreaking havoc for you. Does that make sense, bro? Okay. Just making sure.
Yeah, I would say so. I know. Now, so just to kind of sum it up real quick. For me, I used to deal with it in regards to my own emotions because, as most people know, my big thing is the aspect of unconditional love. And I grew up without the aspect of my mother teaching me a lot in regards to what I feel I would with emotions and support with unconditional love. So I've had to go out into the world and figure a lot of that stuff out on my own. I still deal with it now, and I'm 31, but I understand a lot of the things I've gone through and currently deal with.
So
I've
let me
managed
ask
it
you
better.
real
That's
quick.
why it's really
Help with the
so it's definitely not easy and it's always yeah. So for me, I revolve my
That's
life
why
around seven. Seven is my lucky number, and it's a lucky or it's a good number here. It's specific. It's a lucky number for me, and it is
Yep, it is.
also a good lucky number in the Bible as well. I'll have to get back to you as far as
Well,
the
I'll
definitions
tell
as to
you,
why more so, but for me, it's always been a lucky
so
number. I didn't always have a
seven.
reason.
And if you guys are watching, look that up. The law of seven. It basically dictates that so many different important things come in groups of seven, 7 days in the week. All these different areas where that number seven lines up. So it's hugely significant. That's a lot of the times why when I try to make a program or do something, I try to make it just 7 steps. Try to stay within it because it just feels right. Dude, I was like, when you said 7 minutes, I was like, whoa, that's powerful.
I think it's a start. I think it's a sign, but it's funny because a lot of people actually don't talk about that. I
Okay.
do have a tattoo of it in Japanese too, which is crazy. But yeah, my whole life,
Okay.
yeah, I've come in the so I show. But yeah, but like my single library. So yeah, it was actually I was looking to. I felt like I'm gonna have to find that guy's name, but it was a podcast or something. I was listening. He had a 5 minute regard to something similar. Because I'm good. I get what's up, and I'm just like, man, I can't get over this. I can't get past this. And even though I was like, I couldn't find a resolution or have something to kind of like a blueprint to follow. So I was like, okay, if I align with seven, I was like, 7 minutes gives me enough time to think and process that information, whatever it is, and determine if I need to fix it now or
I'll tell
later.
you how
So that's how that came up.
because I want everybody to have different ways that form better so that they can try to work through it. And one of the things that I figured out, and this was before I knew what triggers were, was when these situations were occurring where I'm just starting to go from 0 to 100. First thought in my mind is to breathe because I noticed that when I'm triggered, we got those short breaths where we're gasping a little bit for air and we're like, like all turned up or we're turned down so much that we're retreating. You're in that fight or flight. So I realized that if I just stop and take a deep breath and then ask this question, which I don't know how I came up with the question, we just intuitively come up with stuff that works for us. I'm like, what am I really mad about? What's really annoying me to this level right now? And that quick question, it will trigger you to think because that's key. You're not really thinking when you're triggered. You're just in that moment, in that experience and letting it take you wherever it's going to take you. But the moment you stop and think, you kind of wake up out of that little dream or nightmare that you're experiencing. So I would start doing that and started to myself, where is this coming from? What are these different things that are happening? And real quick, I'll tell you an example of a trigger, one that I didn't even handle, one that went out of control a little bit. And in the military, I deployed for a year to Afghanistan a couple times. And in one of those situations, it wasn't a good experience for me while I was deployed. And that led to me having these experiences at home many years later that would remind me of being deployed. One key example for me was just watching different movies related to the military. So if there's a movie that I'm watching that has a lot of action and it's similar to Afghanistan and you hear the explosions and all of that stuff going on, then it gets me to this place. And this wasn't like I was just instantly triggered as the movie kept going on and on. I felt sadder and more depressed and getting darker and darker, like this huge weight was on me, right? And then my wife says something to me and I snapped at her, you know? And right after that, I woke up like, whoa, what was that? And it was just the simple fact that that movie built up that same experience that I had dealt with so many years ago and brought me right back to that same place. And that's when I said, man, I got to start really looking into this. What is this? What's going on?
Yeah, I feel that. That's one thing I tell people too is about the movies you watch. They do play a role. One thing for me, I do, especially with Halloween coming up, in about a month, I do not watch scary movies or horror flicks or anything like that. I won't go into a haunted house for specific reasons just like that. And for me, like the haunted house is very specific because I did do something in childhood, but not because of a fear. It's because this is funny and not funny at the same time. So I think of me being 31 and kind of like you said, you snapped at one point. I'm not trying to put myself, I know my boundaries. I know I'm not going to put myself in a position or a place where I know I might have been in that kind of situation. Knowing it's on it out and it's for entertainment for the most part, I'm not trying to put myself there and all of a sudden I
Because you
do
just didn't have
something, I
to
snap,
fight
I
a
punch
fight.
somebody because it's the reaction and then it becomes something else. Exactly. It's the same with the scary movies because, you know, it puts you in that place of being fearful all the time. Like people get excited to be scared. I'm like, bro, no. I do not get excited to be full in a survival mode. Like somebody trying to come after me and kill me or kill other people that I love. No. I'm going to prepare if something like that is to happen, but I'm not going to be thinking
You don't
about
want
changing a
it.
way of being
It's like a
paranoid
good play.
like all the time. So the movie, I can
And I
say,
think
huge
that
role.
place, bro,
No, it's
one of
not.
the sentence last year I heard all the time for, and it is, if you don't want it to occur in your life, don't watch it. So it's like whatever you're watching, you're kind of brainwashed and investing whatever you believe. You're attracting that into your life. So it's like you really want to tip the scales in favor and don't watch stuff that you couldn't imagine happening in your life. You wouldn't want that to occur in your life. Why expose yourself over and over to stuff that they call entertainment, but it's that, putting you in those experiences.
Yeah, and that's a whole nother topic we gonna have to go down one. This aspect of watching for entertainment purposes and the program behind
It's
all
the
that.
whole
So
how they are, a little bit about where they come from, how we deal with them. How do you figure out what your triggers are? Let's go into that. Or start.
how do you figure out
Yeah.
how what they are? So I think a lot of our answers in regards to it gonna come down to the inner working self awareness, right? So all of our answers, so we want to spoil everybody's lives and videos and stuff like that. It's always gonna come down to it's about you and you figuring out you and understanding you. If you don't understand you, it's just gonna keep happening. You're gonna keep repeating every pattern in your life until you do that work. But when it comes down to it, for me, like how I would break it down and how I got to where I am now, it's more so if I know somebody says a certain word or a certain thing happens in my life, like for me, like a car accident. If I used to see a car accident happen, it would bring me back to any time I had one. It would give me, like you said, put me in the same place of when I was actually in one. I would smell the same smells, I would feel the same way and all those type of things because my mind is not focused on that. And what I would do is I would have to sit there and really break, I guess maybe a logical. I'd have to really sit there and think about like, is this actually happening? Or am I just thinking that it's happening and feeling like it's happening because I saw something or something reminded me of it? And most of the time it's because of that. And so sitting there doing that work and realization to get to that point, I can now pull myself out of it and kind of take the emotions out. So that's what I end up doing to a lot of these things. Is once you take the
Get to
emotion
the
and feeling out of it, and you get down to what is actually happening, you see exactly it's not actually what you think it is. And if it actually is what you think it is, then yeah, you might have to react in a way. But I'm more specifically speaking on if it's actually a trigger, not if something's actually happening. If it's happening, it's real life at that
One
point.
of the things
So
is knowing the difference between reality and what's playing around as a situation in your head and just making you feel like it's real? So that. So fear doesn't cover all of it, but it is false expectation appearing real. So you act like you're in that real danger or in that real situation, like when I was deployed. And your mind is just so potent, so powerful with it that you feel like that's where you are. But for what I do and ongoingly do in order to approach the triggers, because understand this is a inner work in general, not just figuring out your triggers. It's a lifelong activity. If you're gonna do the inner work, you have to resolve to understand
yep.
till the day you hit your deathbed. You need to have some small part of your routine be doing that inner work to unravel what's going on inside you. Because that's the only way to affect everything external to you. But for me, what I found was very helpful is each day before I go to bed or when I wake up in the morning, I will pull out a journal and kind of go through the significant events that happened that day. And if there was something that struck me emotionally, struck an emotional chord, I'll just do a quick brain dump on it. Just write down how I was feeling, what memories were popping up, different details about it. And the most important part for me was just having no judgment about whether that was a good or bad situation. Just this spells intent. And I'm writing this down, and thought images are occurring and things like that. And you get to this next step where you kind of start to realize where it came from. Like, I didn't know why the movie triggered me that bad. I had no idea for that situation that movies would bring that feeling out of me. But I was able to figure it out after I just told my brain, hey, give me the answers. Let's just start. I'm writing. And you show me whenever you want to show me, and we'll figure it out. And that's what came up: Afghanistan, different stuff around it like that. But the key piece that I found, not even in figuring out what your triggers are, it's what we talked about before, just finding a way to start handling it. You have to recognize when that feeling isn't really warranted for the situation, and start to bring yourself down and raise your awareness that this is happening. And then you can do that inner work of starting to figure out where they come from. Because if you can unravel where they come from, it can look like this. This is, in a perfect world, this is what handling your trigger would look like. You shut it off before it even starts. And that's it. You have your way. I have one way of
Yeah.
dealing. For the most part, our brain, this is what's going on that neurochemical level, is our brain has adapted to just create those inner connections that makes it easier for us to deal and not flip into that fight or flight mode. So the more you repeat different things and raise your awareness, stronger your brain gets at doing it on autopilot. And then it's almost like you're free. You're free to look at these triggers from a different place, because the last thing else is that triggers are your friend. That statement is flying around the internet like crazy, but it's really true. Every trigger is just a lesson for you about something you dealt with in the past that you still have to face. Something there is a message there about something you want to face and you want to reconcile with. And if you can kind of start digging down into that as you go, like I said, inner work is a lifelong thing. So it's not like you're going to figure this out in one day. Then you start to make it easier to handle. And then maybe one day they don't pop up anymore. I'm not there yet, but that's the product of just mastering it, just continually working on it. What are your thoughts?
Yeah. I like that idea. I will say I don't deal with triggers anymore because I do get to the point of breaking it down. The one thing in the area that gets tough that I tell everybody is when there's an error that I guess that's happened in your life that is out of your control and it still affects you to this day. Just like my daughter being in another state, the court allowed that to happen. It was out of my head, and there's nothing I can do about it still to this day. So it's one of those things that it's an important thing that has an effect in my life still to this day, and there's nothing I can do about it. The feelings are you, they're going to come, and there's nothing I can do about it. So I just have to basically sit with it. They're not really triggering.
That's what it is.
It's just more so it just reminds me what happened and what things played a role in someone's life. And like you said, it's like the energy aspect of it. I would say in regards to, you said something in the ending of what you were speaking on. And honestly, sometimes you draw a blank when it comes to some of these things. But when you mentioned about, I guess I want to say the perceived threat because they're triggering your friend. When they come, also, like I said, you have to analyze if they're actually coming up to save you or just remind you, like, hey, these kind of things happened before, but that doesn't mean that actually happened. Like, if you got cheated on and you experienced some of the same things that led up to you finding out that you got cheated on and you're in a similar situation and it just seems like that is happening, and you are going to feel, well, I must be getting ready to cheat on me again because this is how it happened before. You might actually be setting yourself up for your own demise for a certain situation to happen, because then you start thinking, okay, they're starting to do all these things that remind me of what happened when I got cheated on. So now I'm going to pay attention for all those other times that led up to it to see if they match up. And sometimes on the surface, certain things do match up in general. Like they can seem like it. They can have certain mannerisms that act like a past partner or something like that. but they might be up to something. Like for me, I know I don't communicate everything, but I invest in the stock market. I know it's something that isn't truly understood by a lot of people, and everybody has their own, just like they have their own identity with how they handle figures, they have their own identity with how they handle investment and risk and stuff like that. Well, yeah, money, that's another thing with that. And people don't want to leave and put that money in a place that is out of their control, that they can lose their money. But it's like you do the same when you gamble at a casino. You do the same when you actually go out and buy a McDonald's or another game. And that fact, you're actually guaranteeing that you're wasting your money because you're not guaranteeing you're going to affect your health. Where in that area of investing in the stock market, you're putting money in. And if you have an idea and understanding of the company and what it is that you're doing, you have a better chance of being and growing instead of you actually building a business and putting in that time, money, and effort into doing something. You can just put those funds into there and allow other people to work for you when it comes to that. It's the same thing. Yeah. So there's times where you can understand conditions and timing and all that kind of stuff, and they do play a role. But that doesn't mean it's going to work out in the exact same way as the bad thing that happened to you in the past. So one of the things is remembering that thing just in general, when it comes down to the triggers and applying them and not making them, I want to say not making them a reality, because you can't actually bring that to reality. And that one of those things is, my first relationship with my daughter's mother ended like that because she needed me to be her friend, partly her parent too, because she didn't know a lot. And it was like, I need to fit in all the roles, but she also had no social life. She didn't want to go out there, didn't want to talk to anybody else. So now all those things, because of things she went through, got put on me. And so she was dealing with all that stuff. And I took on some of those things for a point, but it's like, I'm only one person. And I can't take on those things that you are dealing with if you don't want to do that inner work for yourself.
If you have someone else in your life that gets triggered, don't fall into the trap of trying to figure out everything that triggers them and trying to walk on eggshells in order to avoid triggering them. It's impossible. It's just impossible.
It is. It's going to happen regardless. That's why I said that's one of those things. Like if you got cheated on in the past, regardless, if someone in your relationship thinks you're going to cheat on them because of what they went through, so they're like paranoid, and so they just tell you, I'm worried you're going to cheat on me. I'm worried you're going to leave me. Worried this is going to happen. And you try to tie it to you. Now, you're going to burn yourself out trying to prove it to them, knowing they're going to actually heal from that hurt. And because they continue to remind you, in a sense, that you need to prove it to me that you're not going to be like these other men or like these other women, you're going to burn yourself out and be like, I know I'm not like these other people, but I'm tired of hearing it. I'm tired of being put in that I'm the one that does it, even though I'm not doing this. And it gets to that point where say the relationship doesn't work. Now you split up. Now that person who's dealing with the trigger are at that point where they're like, well, they must have cheated on me or they must want somebody else. That's the real reason they left me. It's like, it probably wasn't that. Honestly, they might have just been tired of being put in this realm and having to fix something that eventually they know they can't fix. So it's a battle that they're never going to win. The first what they're putting in.
If you are kind to a fault, if you're smart and you care, which, we both have been there, it's like you want to help that person as much as you can. So you're trying to prove, trying to validate, trying to figure out all these triggers, and they're constantly telling you, not enough, it's not enough. And it just goes around and around, and you get burned out. Like you said, you shut down, and that can look like so many different things, but overall, it just sends you sliding back your mental health.
And you can't do that. Don't let somebody else just take you backwards. That's one thing I say. Don't allow anybody else to take you off your path of growth and healing, because you need that for you, regardless of what happens in your life. You have a partner, you have kids, you have a job and all that stuff. None of that matters if you go back and see the old bad ways, bad habits, bad triggers, and things that you got out of. Don't allow everything else to put you back. All that work you did. It's just like if you go to the gym, time and time again, you put in that work, you got that six pack, you got the weight you wanted to get to, you're lifting that weight that you wanted to get to, and then you just stop and start eating donuts and junk food and eating out all the time, and you just go back to where you were at. And it was like, man, you did it, you got to where you got to, and then something distracted you and made you go back. And now, 6 months later, where you were at, Exactly. And unfortunately, that's going to happen in a lot of areas, but you have to be aware of some of these things. And sometimes it's okay because sometimes you need to go back to ground zero to rebuild yourself back up in some areas. It's okay. But don't go back to the place where you're just now, I'm sitting on the couch, I'm depressed. Now I'm eating this food. Now I'm blaming everybody for my life and why this is happening. Now I'm sitting there watching those traumatic movies that trigger
And
me
the thing
and everything, all of what you do now will.
that you can put yourself, you can get dragged back there, or you can consciously place yourself down there and rebuild. You're putting yourself down there with the
Mhm.
expectation that I'm figuring things out and I'm rebuilding who I am to come back better than ever. So triggers will drag you down there if you let them, but other people will consciously start removing things, making massive shifts, ending friendships, changing environment, and they're placing themselves in a place where they're starting from scratch too.
Yeah.
They're doing it knowing that they're going to start rebuilding. It's time for a change. It's time for a transition. Important to know that difference.
That environment plays a huge role. I try and tell so many people in regards to stuff, like if you do not have a safe place, a place where you can just be you or have people that you can just be you, you are going to have to make some changes. You are going to have to make some shifts in some relationships, limit interactions with people, find a happy place to go to. If you don't have it, like if you don't have a home or room specifically that you have to be creative, be open, or have people that you can just openly talk to, go and find those people. Because that's going to really help you. And bro, that's why I appreciate and love you, because doing this stuff and doing this live with some of these people, like one new person that always shows love and is always here, we are aspect this place, yeah, this aspect of having a safe place where we can just be us, be ourselves, our way of thinking. We're not put down, criticized to some degree. I'm sure there are going to be times we disagree. People don't like what we say. We don't like what other people say. Me and you might see eye to eye on certain things, but it comes back to a place of, okay, bro, like I appreciate you. I value your opinion. It just might not work for me. And that's also okay in certain aspects. But understanding that you're in a place that you guys can have that conversation, you can have that space to be able to create without being put down, scrutinized, bullied, any of that stuff. That's kind of one of the more important things. So that's like living a normal life. Everybody wants to live that quote unquote normal life until you get that normal life and see how miserable you are. Then you don't have that identity. Then you start having that identity because now you're like 99% of the world. You're doing what most people are doing. We all went through it where we all wanted to fit in. We all wanted to be cool. Being black, you know, we wanted to Jordan. We wanted to good night. We wanted to shoot. We wanted to fit and look nice. We wanted people to look at us, be cool. Post on social media, a good time. It is what it is. Yeah, everybody wants it at some way, shape, or form, but you don't post those other things that go on in the back room. That's why, like, with me and her page, you see it every week. I'm posting something I went through. Like, I just posted, I had to sue my ex for like $15,000. That's something I didn't think I would ever really speak on too often. Not that I can speak for it or I'm ashamed of it. It's just like, bro, like you really sit back and I had to reflect. I'm like, dang, I really went through that. And I was like 6 years ago. I'm like, I really had to do that. I never thought I'd get to the point of having to shoot somebody, but let alone somebody I once loved. So understanding all those things, it's just like it's a tough thing. Because yeah, I can, like you said, improve you when you start opening up and being vulnerable to stuff. But if you have a safe player, if you have a safe place in an environment to do that, and you know people are going to support you and love you, regardless of what it is you're going through, even if they may not agree or like it, it's like, you know what? I like and appreciate you. So that's what I'm going to do every day.
If you're looking at that from the outside and you want to get there where you have a safe space, an easy way to start is to just pick somebody that's extremely close to you and test it out with them, you know, test it out with that person close to you. Be vulnerable with them and see how they react, especially if it's someone you know that loves you unconditionally. You know, it can be family, it can be a friend.
Or they do, you think they do. You guys remember that part. They might love you unconditionally and you care something that might trigger them or they didn't expect. So yeah, you have to kind of test it because not everybody's accurate. I do want to add that.
See how they react and understand that you don't want to have any judgment when you do that or any expectations going into it. But here's what'll happen. One of two things. There's two things that you're going to see
Like,
happen. And it could
one
react
of it,
favorably to that and open up to you. And you guys are building more for, and you're seeing vulnerability is amazing. But the other thing that some people might think judge as negative is you might also see that that might not be a person that you can depend on. So it's kind of like you're either going to find out if that person is someone you can trust and depend on, or you're going to find out that it's okay to be vulnerable, or both. You know, you're getting these answers you need where you're at. You're just looking at it to see how. And so we can talk about this all day long. I think this is a good place for us to start closing it up. We gave everybody, I think, a lot to think about already. And so I'll start by saying that with anything you're gonna do, we say this probably every video. All these different things, if you wanted to boil down how to start working through changing your life, inner work, 2 words, inner work, where you gotta start. You might be saying like, my money is crappy, or I don't have the job I want, this is going on, or that. But it's about what's going on inside of you. Because when you start working from that place, you can go through hell and water and have a smile on your face because you inside of yourself are solid. So you should set that as a goal if you're watching, to try to get to that place of fulfillment and contentment with yourself, so that as these roller coasters of life throw at you start happening, you're still able to just keep moving forward, stay consistent with it. It's not perfect, but it's ideal. Uh, with that, I would say last thing is, for me, before I let Lawrence finish up, follow us, check out the content. Even if this conversation didn't trigger something positive for you to start working on and think about, we have lots of content, lots of free resources. We're on YouTube, TikTok, and we're out there spreading these messages to help you get some clues that might lead you to your next breakthrough.
I'll say one thing that I guess I want to leave people with. It's something I got it from Nipsey Hussle. So I was, especially speaking on triggers and trying to kind of fit in and do what everybody else wants you to do, right? And be loved and accepted. Would you rather be at peace with yourself and at war with the world, or at peace with the world and at war with yourself? Do you want to be dealing with those battles all the time with yourself because you're trying to make everybody else happy, make yourself feel cool and accepted and loved? Or are you trying to feel that for yourself while the world's falling apart and crumbling around you, but you're still capable of loving yourself, moving forward, and that there are people that are out there for you? You just have to go find them. I think that's an important and beautiful thing to do, because it's possible. You just have to actually do it. And yes, it does start with that inner work, but it does also start with self-awareness. You have to be aware of these things and aware if you really want it. Because you might think you want it, and then you start going over it, you realize it's difficult, because every journey of growth and healing is going to be difficult, and it's going to be unique to you and yourself only. No one else is going to tell you how to do it and maneuver, because they're not you and your experience and the things that you want. They don't know. Your vision is yours, it's nobody else's. So only you can go on that journey and make that vision a reality.
Right. Well, if you guys got something from this, feel free to drop a comment. This will definitely be a recording that's going to be put up later. If you're catching the recording, let us know what you thought. Ask us any questions, anything like that. We're an open book. And like I said at the beginning, we never try to appear to be perfect or any of that. We always are vulnerable and share what we've been going through and are going through, because we know that life isn't perfect. It shouldn't be. It's got to have those ups and downs. That's how we have a human experience, a real experience in life. But with that, I'm going to let you guys go, and we will see you on the next one next Saturday.